Hello gamers, it's Wintermute here from Grind This Game. And this episode I'm going to give you kind of a bit of a tour of the base as it's been progressing. You'll probably notice since the last episode that this is a different base. And that's because I started a new base when I started my tutorial series. And it kind of just got ahead of my other one, so I'm just going to continue on with this one. So I'll kind of take you around, show you what's up with this base. So lots of bedrooms, lots of beds. We're up to about 45 dupes now. Got 3 or 4 cooking stations on the go. Between 3 and 4 seems to keep the food flowing in nicely. If I look under reports, I can see calorie generation. It's negative 15,000, so I should probably turn on this 4th cooking station once we get down to maybe 100,000 calories. Stress is really low. I would say half of the dupes are wearing snazzy suits now. Here's one. So they got their little well, you can't see it here, but as when they walk through a low decor area, you can see like a nice little square of high decor around them. So I got the showers, bathrooms. This seems to be keeping up with their needs. I got the CO2 scrubber or air scrubbers down the bottom here. Got my underwater storage for things like slime and polluted dirt and rot piles, so that the polluted oxygen doesn't kind of vent off them. But that's not really an issue because I basically opened up the base to polluted oxygen. I had it nice and clean in here for a while, but it just became harder and harder to maintain the clean oxygen. I do have some electrolyzers. I have one at the bottom of the base, or 2 actually. And I'm just letting the hydrogen kind of flow to the top up here. And then I'm sucking it in here, putting it through a filter, and then burning it off in the hydrogen generator. So some clean oxygen is going into the base, but I have a bit of a mealwood farm here that's growing naturally on the ground. It's not really contributing that much to the food. The main food source is down here in our sleet wheat growing room. This is feeding the whole colony, and it's doing really well. A lot of weezeworts spread around here, and then I also have this kind of cooling mechanism that I saw on the forum. Basically what happens is when the water drips down here onto these gas permeable tiles, which I made out of wolframite, when they make these little eddies, these whirls, it causes the temperature to kind of cool rapidly. So you'll see this gas permeable tile when I first put it in was quite warm, and it's been cooling down and cooling down. And then it keeps splitting and splitting, and then the weezeworts cool the gas down, which cools the water down, and so you get really cool water down here. And as you'll notice, half of it's going into this radiator system where it warms back up by cooling the room, and then half of it just stays in this loop where it gets cooler and cooler. So this is enough to keep this room below 0. As you'll notice, it's around minus 10 throughout. This carbon dioxide that accumulates from the dupes coming in here and dealing with the plants is sucked up by these algae terrariums. I didn't want to put an air scrubber in here just because it was overkill. I have some natural growing sleet wheat. I'm not sure why I did this, but probably won't do much more with it. It's really slow growing in these pots without fertilizer. And we need tons of fertilizer to run all this, so over here we have our fertilizer makers, which are in a sealed room and drop natural gas down into this area where the natural gas geyser is. And then we've got our power plant here with 6 natural gas generators. Oh, I just noticed this is damaged. Anyway, I'll look at that in a second. And then we got all our transformers in here. And this is basically hidden away. The dupes rarely have to come into this column here. So, as if you look at decor, this is really, really bad in here because of this heavy watt wire. So when they need to get fertilizer, they come in through here and they don't have to see all this really bad heavy watt wire. So yeah, they barely ever come in here at all. And then the base itself is high decor, lots of Mona Lisas, Duplisas. I've got their food mess tables down here, right by the cooking station, and the cooking station is right by the farm, so the running distance is very minimal. We've got some polluted water, actually all of it right now, coming into this storage area here. So from the bathrooms and from showers, we dump our polluted water in here. And then we suck it back out and use it for the fertilizer. And it's almost in balance. Sometimes it gets a little ahead of itself and this fills up, and I just send them in here to mop away any excess. And then our clean water source is up here. It's a little bit weird, but so we've got this super hot geyser up here at like almost 100 degrees. Yeah, 100 degrees. And it drips really hot water down along here into this cool biome where it gets cooled down to about 60. And then it comes and overflows, and it comes in here where it cools down even more. And then it comes in here at around 20 to 40 degrees. And then if it's cool, this tepidizer kicks in. And it activates if this water is less than 35 degrees. It rarely actually happens that this goes on because well, right now it's 32, so actually it might kick in a little bit. But then we get nice, perfect temperature water coming into the base for the showers and all the other stuff. And I've used insulated towel because I don't want the temperature to kind of bleed off into the base. What else we got? We got our hand sanitizer over here in a sealed room. Keeps the chlorine out of the base. We got batteries on the heavy watt wire system, as well as on each individual circuit. This is trying to build a cool room for sleet wheat. And this is actually getting cold enough to grow sleet wheat now. It took a while to bring this down, and what I'm doing is I have 2 thermoregulators, so I'm going in one and then out the other, and kind of cycling this. This room gets overpressurized, so this is very intermittent. And this will shut off if it gets too cold. But it's cold enough now that we could grow sleet wheat. And my plan was to kind of extend this out and have a sleet wheat growing room here. But I probably don't need it because the one down to the left is taking care of everything. We have ample food. We do have one other natural gas geyser up here. Right here. And it is pumping natural gas down to the other natural gas area that I showed you. Now the crazy thing about this base, as you'll probably see, is I'm mining out this entire map. So I'm about, I don't know, not quite halfway done. And it's going pretty well. It's going pretty fast. As you can see, I've hit the side of the map here. And here's the other side here. Got lots of polluted water that we have dumping in here, and I'll probably send them in to mop this up at some point. I've been trying to keep it at bay for a while now. Just set them in, let them mop here, and they can kind of bring the water level down. So the plan is to eventually get down to the bottom of the map. Not too far though, because it gets molten hot down by the magma. But once I get this all cleared out, I'll probably do another episode and just see how it's going. There's some interesting things that happen with temperature though at this kind of scale. So there were some cold biomes, and once you take out the abyssalite, the temperature just kind of bleeds into, like, kind of merges slowly. So it seems like it's cold is kind of winning here. There are some nice temperate areas here. And I have put insulated tile along here to try to keep this area from freezing. I actually opened it up here to let it cool a little bit because this machinery, all this power generation gets hot, so I can just crack this open to cool this area if I need to. And the base is a pretty decent temperature. This area is a little bit chilly, kind of green, but I kind of aim for the yellowish, which is around their body temperature. We have no shortage of water. We've got water here, here, here. I could probably let water drain into this from here. Got one here. This natural gas geyser over here is kind of trapped in the neutronium. So yeah, that natural gas geyser is trapped in the neutronium, so it actually can't burp out its natural gas. If we look at some of the overlays, other overlays at this scale, we got oxygen. It's mostly polluted. And little specks of chlorine and CO2. You'll notice these shapes here. There's kind of weird shapes. There's one here, one along here. And I think this is the way that the maps are designed, are kind of like they have these seams. And so like this area right here kind of captured all the clean oxygen, and here as well. And this is kind of capturing the CO2. So it's like I think a way for them to increase performance by sectioning off areas of different gases so that they don't have to care about perfect mixes. That's just a hunch, I'm not really sure. There's a circuit diagram here, body temperature, all our liquid piping, all our gas piping, decor. So the base is high decor. There's a lot of like crap on these ledges. It's not helping things. But eventually I'll put them all in storage containers. Maybe. It would take forever to sweep it all up, but you'll notice performance is absolutely terrible. Getting like five frames per second, which kind of makes it not as fun to play, but it was keeping up with it until I started to dig out most of the map. I kind of heard from some people that the melting ice is the thing that causes all the performance issues. So maybe once I carve out all this ice, it will speed up a bit. But I suspect all this kind of simulating the gas movements is kind of taking up a lot of the CPU power. And just all the dupes. So even though this whole base is full of polluted oxygen, their stress levels stay really low. Unless I send them off out of the base to do lots of digging, and then eventually their stress might go up a bit. Eventually, once I've mined everything out, I'll probably try to get a nice pure clean oxygen base, but for now it's not really necessary. I do have a few coal generators going just because I have so much coal. How much coal here? 197,000. I'm not actually using much algae anywhere because I was running, I won't say running low, but it would eventually run out. And I don't have any filters anymore. I'll probably keep on taking good duplicants on until I reach 100. I've been trying to take only ones with diver's lungs and high strength. Or really good diggers. That way our oxygen consumption remains pretty low. But really we have no shortage of oxygen because this is all oxygen. It's going to take a while for them to breathe all this out. I do have one electrolyzer down here. It's almost always at max gas pressure though. So I do most of my planning and digging and stuff using the Alt-S, the screenshot view, just so that I can keep an eye on everything. I basically have to pause whenever I give any orders though because the performance is pretty bad. One thing I wanted to point out is the way I'm digging or planning here is so I'm putting these 4 tiles apart, and the reason for that is that once the ladders are built, well, first off, I built the ladders first because dupes often, if you send them digging into things, they'll get trapped. And anyway, so once I get these ladders, a ladder on either side and 4 tiles in between them, then I do the digging. So like this is done now, I could go in and dig this out like I'm doing here. Oh, there's something interesting going on here. So yeah, I'll like dig this out, and then there's no way for them to get trapped because they can dig 2 tiles in from the ladder, and they can jump. If they happen to get stuck here, they can jump back onto the ladder. So it's kind of a foolproof way of digging out the map. I've seen people like make horizontal kind of things with ladders, but it looked really tedious and like lots of clicking. This way I can just make a ladder and drag it to the top really quickly, like this. Very, very quick to do. If it's got polluted water, I make a little kind of entrance away, usually like this. Send some dupes in, mop it up, and then dig it out. I guess eventually I could go in and try to clear these ladders out, but I have a feeling it would take a while. We'll see how it goes. I'm worried that if I try to deconstruct it quickly, they'll get just trapped on ladders, but maybe not. Maybe they'll just fall down. I guess I'll find out later once I clear everything out. When the game is running this slow, you'll often see your dupes suffocating, even though they're not. And even they'll die sometimes, right? Even in the base, like there'll be plenty of oxygen, and you'll just see duplicant has died. I think it's because the game's not processing events fast enough, and you'll often see no restrooms built, even though there's. And they'll often just sit here like they look like they're frozen in time here. I think it's just the game kind of catching up with itself. We are going to have a nice collection of hydrogen up here. At some point, it's all leaking up here. We'll be able to burn this up. So you can see these seams like along here and along here. This is what I was talking about earlier. So I think gas tends to stay in these areas and rarely will it move across. It's just a hunch. And I think that's the way they've kind of tiled this map. And I say that because, oh, actually this tile looks different here. But like this clean oxygen, it's been stuck in this shape here for, I don't know, 50 cycles or something. Normally you'd think that it would just kind of spread out and evenly, but it's trapped in this area here. So I guess in a way you could take advantage of this and try to build things near here so that the clean oxygen is always going to be there. Anyway, so that's that's kind of the tour of the base as it is now. I'll do another episode once I've got the map all mined out and scaled up to 100 dupes, or maybe one in between. We'll see how things go. Anyway, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see future videos. Also, check out my tutorial series if you want to. I've made short little videos kind of describing each major component of the game. I haven't done them all yet, but I'll be doing more as time goes on. And as always, thanks for watching.